Imagine this, a man, wounded and bleeding, standing atop a burning tank destroyer, alone. Enemy soldiers swarm the field, mortar shells rain down, the air smells of smoke and steel, yet he refuses to back down. He stands his ground, firing until the very last bullet, holding off an entire German assault by himself. Sounds like a scene straight out of Fury, right? But this actually happened. This is the real story behind Fury's last stand. The true, unbelievable act of heroism that inspired one of Hollywood's most intense war films. Welcome back to Top Tier TV, where we bring you the untold stories that shaped history. Today, we're peeling back the layers of fiction and diving straight into fact, exploring how one man's courage, grit, and sheer defiance in the face of death became legend. This isn't just another war story. It's about the kind of bravery that doesn't come from orders, but from something deep: duty, brotherhood, and an unbreakable will to fight when everyone else has fallen. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss another deep dive into the moments that made history. Now, let's roll out. In 2014, Fury hit theaters, a gritty, unflinching look at the final days of World War II. Brad Pitt's character, Don War Daddy Collier, and his crew aboard the Sherman tank Fury captured the brutality, chaos, and brotherhood of tank warfare like few films ever have. But what many don't realize is that Fury wasn't pure fiction. While its characters were imagined, the film's heart, its core moment of defiance, where one man and his tank crew stand alone against overwhelming odds, was inspired by real soldiers who actually lived it. And at the center of that inspiration stands one name: Audie Murphy. Audie Leon Murphy wasn't supposed to be a hero. Born in 1925 in Kingston, Texas, he was small, quiet, and sick, the kind of kid no one would expect to become a warrior. He dropped out of school in the 5th grade to help feed his family, picking cotton and hunting small game to survive. When the war broke out, Murphy tried to enlist, but was rejected by the Marines, the Navy, even the paratroopers. Too young, too short, too light. Finally, the Army took him, and what followed was nothing short of legendary. He would go on to become the most decorated U.S. soldier of World War II, earning every major American combat award for valor, plus honors from France and Belgium. But one day in January 1945 would define him forever. It was January 26, 1945. The setting: Holtzwihr Forest, eastern France. Snow blanketed the ground. The 3rd Infantry Division, worn, exhausted, and low on supplies, had been ordered to hold the line against a German counterattack. Murphy's unit, Company B, faced an onslaught of enemy troops, about 250 German soldiers, backed by 6 tanks. Realizing his men were outnumbered, Murphy ordered his company to retreat into the woods for cover. He stayed behind, calling artillery fire over the radio, alone. As he directed the attack, a German tank shell hit the American tank destroyer beside him. It burst into flames, ammunition cooking off inside. Most men would have run, but not Audie Murphy. He climbed on top of that burning vehicle, the flames lighting up his face, grabbed the .50 caliber machine gun, and started fire. For nearly an hour, Murphy held his position, single-handedly fighting off the German advance. He fired until the barrel of his gun glowed red. Bullets tore through his jacket. Shrapnel ripped into his leg. Still, he kept going. Each burst of fire drove the enemy back. Each explosion around him reminded him that stopping meant dying. Eyewitnesses later said it looked impossible. A lone man, standing in the open, flames behind him, cutting down wave after wave of German soldiers. When his ammunition finally ran out, Murphy jumped down, limping through the smoke, rallying his men to counterattack. They retook the position. The Germans fled. Audie Murphy had just stopped an entire company, nearly 250 enemy soldiers, all by himself. When the battle ended, the wreckage was unspeakable, but Murphy had saved countless lives. For his actions that day, he received the Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration in the United States. By the end of World War II, Audie Murphy had earned 33 medals and decorations, more than any other American soldier in the conflict. But perhaps what's most striking isn't just what he did, it's how he lived after. Murphy returned home a hero, but fame brought its own battles. He struggled with what we now call PTSD, long before society understood it. He had nightmares, insomnia, moments of deep isolation, and yet, he turned his pain into purpose, becoming an advocate for veterans and mental health awareness. He even became a Hollywood star, playing himself in the film To Hell and Back, a dramatization of his war story. Though, by his own admission, the real events were far worse than anything shown on screen. So how does Fury tie into this? While the characters are fictional, the soul of the story, that desperate last stand, the crew refusing to abandon their position, echoes Murphy's real-life stand in Holtzwihr. Director David Ayer, who also served in the Navy, wanted Fury to show the claustrophobic terror of tank warfare, but also the camaraderie, the way soldiers fight, not for glory, but for each other. When Brad Pitt's War Daddy and his crew decide to stay and fight despite impossible odds, it's not just a cinematic choice. It's a tribute, a nod to those who actually stood their ground in the face of annihilation. In essence, Fury isn't about one man or one battle. It's about what men like Audie Murphy stood for: duty, sacrifice, and the refusal to surrender. When you strip away the Hollywood lights, the explosions, the dramatized dialogue, what remains is the raw truth of war. Heroes aren't invincible. They're not fearless. They're the ones who feel the fear, the pain, the loss, and still choose to stand their ground. Audie Murphy wasn't the biggest, strongest, or loudest man on the battlefield, but on that frozen January day in 1945, he became the embodiment of what courage really means. And that, more than any movie, is what makes his story eternal. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe to Top Tier TV for more deep dives into the real moments behind the legends. And I want to hear from you. Do you think acts of heroism like Audie Murphy's could still happen today? Drop your thoughts down below in the comments. Let's start a real conversation. Until next time, this is Top Tier TV, signing off, reminding you that history isn't just something we remember, it's something we feel.